Hi, you can call me Enos. I like to make Dota 2 hero suggestions. One of my personal favorites is Cueball. He is a ranged carry disabler nuker. This means that he scales well with items and deals high damage mid to late game. He can disable your opponent, hindering their ability to fight back, and he can deal large damage with his spells. Large amounts of damage. Your first spell, Shooting Blind, allows you to ground target your auto attacks. This means you do not have to right-click your opponent. You can right-click the ground, or left-click the ground rather, casting the spell. And it deals reduced damage at the first 3 levels, but full damage at max. These attacks will pass through units and hit for full damage all units that the projectile reaches. The projectile will reach 100%, and then increasing by 10% each level every time you level the spell of your current attack range. This means that if you have very large attack range, say from a Dragon Lance, it will be 30% even further on top of that. The mana cost of the spell is 15, and the cast rate is your attack speed. So this means you can cast this spell as fast as you can normally attack. The Augmented Shard upgrade for the spell is that each consecutive successful hit on the same target within 5 seconds increases your damage dealt to them by 13%, stacking up to 6 times. 6 times 13 is 78, so at most you'll have 78% bonus damage versus your target, so long as you have been hitting your skill shots. This is similar to Ursa's Fury Swipes, in that each consecutive hit will give you more and more damage versus the target. However, this is by a percentage rather than a flat rate, meaning it will scale with your damage and essentially helping you carry more effectively. Your second spell, Redirection Pillar, you vector target a location within 600, 700, 800, or 900 units cast range. The pillar itself is 200 unit radius, blocking enemy pathing. It is phased for allies, meaning that allies can walk through it, enemies cannot. The pillar has a direction that it faces, and this it summons after a 0.4 second delay. And what the pillar does itself is that it recasts any spell or attack that hits it into the direction that it is facing, dealing reduced damage for the first 2 levels and increased damage for the second 2 levels, or the higher 2 levels. Auto attacks, so if you or your allies attack the pillar, it will reproduce the attack as the Shooting Blind's current level of effect, and costing the pillar 15 mana per use. The pillar has 15-second duration, and has a 125, 200, 275, or 350 mana pool. The current mana of the pillar is displayed over the top of its head, or over the top of it, rather. Enemies can see the direction that the pillar is facing with True Sight only, or if they see a spell come out from it. Enemies can attack the pillar to burn 10 of its mana per hit. The gold bounty of the pillar is the amount of mana enemies have burned of the pillar itself. This means you do not want to feed your pillar, otherwise it will be worth 125 gold, or 200, or 275, or 350 gold, depending if they kill the whole thing themselves. Granted, you will reduce the amount of gold they can totally get every time you use a spell or attack redirected or reused from the pillar. Spells which cost more mana than the pillar has are ignored. Targeted spells are recast onto the closest unit, prioritizing heroes in the direction that the pillar faces. Pillars do not block creep camps. AoE spells that don't have a direction orientation are cast in a 400 unit radius cone of 60 degrees deviation from directly in the direction it faces. This is a very wide area, and relatively large. You can select the pillar at any point to change the direction it faces, while it's summoned. The mana cost of the spell is 125, and the cooldown is 20 seconds. A little funny thing about this is that you're spending 125 mana for a pillar that has more mana than that at the higher 3 levels, essentially giving you more mana than you had originally. Hand of Avarice is your third spell. You target a direction, and it shoots a hand out at a speed of 600 units, out to a range of 700 units away from you. The hand has a width of 200 units. It comes out after a slight delay. This spell is your catch. So, yeah, you have a slight delay on it, so it's a little hard to line up your catch, but it grabs one unit or 2 units, depending on what level you have it at, and it's 1 first 2 levels and 2 the second 2 levels. And it just grabs any enemy that are in its path of travel, rooting them at the end of its travel for 1.5, 2, 2.5, or 3 seconds, dealing your auto attack damage to them once, and gives you gold if it's an enemy hero that got caught. At level 1, it gives you 40 gold per hero caught, which it can only get one, so it's always 40 if you get the hero. And at max level, you can get 2 units for 100 each, which would be 200 gold instantly. This generates gold rather than stealing it. The mana cost of the spell is 175, rather high for a basic skill, and the cooldown of it is 45, going down by 5 seconds every time you skill it, capping out at 30 seconds cooldown. Since this is your only catch, and it has a long cooldown, you have to use this spell sparingly, even though it gives you very good benefits, a root and some money. The Autumn Scepter upgrade of this spell allows you to alt cast it to make the spell summon the hand at its max distance of 700 units and come towards you instead of rooting them right in front of you. This spell will have 2 charges with the Autumn Scepter, and it gives you the gold amount even when used on creeps rather than having to use it on heroes. This means you can use this just to generate money very quickly. Your ultimate ability, 8 Ball of Death, is a vector target as well, just like your pillar. However, this has a very close cast range of 300 units, and it summons a massive ball at the started destination and rolls in the direction that you vector targeted at a speed of 700 units per second, and traveling a max distance of 800, 1000, or 1200 units. While enemies that are being hit by the ball are repeatedly knocked back into the direction the ball is traveling until the ball stops. This means as soon as you start getting hit, you're going to be hit by the rest of the entire effect. So ideally you want to hit them from start to finish, but landing that might be a little hard. The ball deals 500, 600, or 700 damage per second, depending on your level. The ball will not knock back units that are currently rooted. However, it will deal damage to them while the ball is touching them. The mana cost of this spell is 300 units, or 300, and cooldown is 60 seconds. If you want to see the actual damage values as to how much maximum damage you can deal with the 8 ball to any single unit, it's AoE, so you can hit multiple units at the same time. So 800 max travel distance divided by 700 units per second times 500 damage per second is 571 total damage as your level 1 ult. Your level 2 ult deals 857 damage at most, and your level 3 ult will deal 1200 damage at most. As far as talents go, level 10, you can have Hand of Avarice cooldown reduced by 5 seconds more, so you'd be at 25 seconds cooldown at max level, which would be very handy if you're trying to make money very quickly. Or Shooting Blind increases your damage by 30. Level 15, you can get 2 charges of Redirection Pillar. Having 2 Redirection Pillars, you can have them feedback loop between each other, casting the same spell or attack, which is kind of interesting and powerful. Or 8 Ball of Death rolls an additional 250 units. And since it's actually kind of slow in terms of rolling, this will greatly increase the damage output. At level 20, you can get 20% mana cost reductions or 60 attack speed. This is a question more of if you're going to be more of a support in some ways, or if you're going to be a carry. Level 25, you can get Redirection Pillar has infinite mana. This means you can double every spell and attack that you want on your Redirection Pillars. And since you can have 2 of them, you can also have them infinitely feedback loop between each other. Or you can have reduced base attack time constantly of 1.55 rather than the 1.7 you start with. As far as stats, you start with 620 health, you start with 351 mana, you start with 52 to 58 damage, and 1 armor. This armor value is actually not updated from here, because it does not count the decimal. So starting stats, you have 23 int and 2.6 int gain, 25 agility and 3 agility growth. He is an agility hero primarily, and he's got 21 starting strength and 2.1 gain. He starts with 305 movement speed, which is slightly above average, or about average, and like I said, he's got 1.2 armor. I could see Cueball as maybe a mid. I could see him as a carry for sure. Maybe a support. Maybe a support. I could see him used as a support as well. I should probably add that as a role, but I have been recording this for a long time. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoy. If you have any questions, comments, or critique, please leave it in the comment section. I will leave a link to Cueball's Dota concept page in the doobly-doo. I hope you have a good day. Goodbye.